There's a rock that is known as the Rock of Gibraltar. It is said it's the greatest in the land. But compared to the rock that's the source of my salvation, it's no more than a pebble in the sand. Well, my rock is known as Christ the living Savior, who died on the cross at Calvary, where he shed his life's blood just to save a lost sinner. So I know his precious blood was shed for me. Oh, the rock, oh, the rock, oh, the rock, that's my foundation. Oh, the rock that endures eternally. I have anchored in the rock, yes, the rock that's my salvation. He's the rock that is there for you and me. There was a time in my life when I lost my direction and I wandered away from the fold. I was lured by those bright lights that dance in the night, till I learned all that glitters is not gold. Then in dark, deep despair, I cried, Lord, hear my prayer. Lift me out of this shifting, sinking sand. And with unequal love, he reached down from above. Now I'm safe in the hollow of his hands. Oh, the rock, oh, the rock, oh, the rock, that's my foundation. Oh, the rock that endures eternally. I have anchored in the rock, yes, the rock that's my salvation. He's the rock that is there for you and me. Someday, by and by, he will reap this down in despair, and no one seems to care, and you just don't know exactly what to do. All you have to do is call, he will catch you when you fall. Rest assured, he will always stand by you. Now someday, by and by, he will split that eastern sky, for he's coming to take his children home.
Yeah.
On that day we'll shout and sing, 'cause we're children of the King, and we'll reign with him beside the golden throne. Oh, the rock, oh, the rock, oh, the rock, that's my foundation. Oh, the rock that is there for you and me. I have anchored in the rock, yes, the rock that's my salvation. He's the rock that is there for you and me. Oh, he's the rock that is there for you and me.
Bob is very, very much involved in what we here at Narrow Ridge are involved with. Our three cornerstones, sustainability, spirituality, and community, are exhibited right here today in what we're doing. This is a cemetery, a natural burial preserve that was set up just for this purpose. You know, we've had hundreds of people come in from all around the state of Tennessee and outside the state as well. And we welcome them all. But we were especially set up for family and friends that are right here and in this valley. And of course, Bob and Cookie just got here. So it's that special time. This cemetery will be allowed to return to forest with trails through it. And folks can come and be here anytime. And that's true for you today. We just want to say again, thank you for coming for this celebration. It's a wonderful time to be together. Thank you.
It says, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. He means by the Holy Spirit. And the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He rescues those whose spirits are crushed. I think that speaks to us today.
Bob Wood, born September 5th, 1934, and passed October 29th, 2022. Bob Wood, age 88, went to his eternal home on October 29th, 2022. He passed peacefully in East Tennessee, surrounded by family. Bob was born Robert Orville Wood on September 5th, 1934, in Marshall, Virginia, where the beautiful Shenandoah Valley meets the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. He was the ninth of 10 children born to Daniel Wesley Wood and Mamie Bird Carter Wood, 2 of whom died in infancy. He grew up with his 3 sisters and 4 brothers. He always said that he was the 7th son of 7 sons. Bob Wood's extraordinary guitar playing has won him international internet fame, numerous awards, and the love and loyalty of fans across the globe. His fans loved his smooth, rich baritone voice and ability to paint vivid pictures with his lyrics and melodies. Whether performing for the WWVA Wheeling, West Virginia Jamboree or playing music at his church, he was never happier than when he had his guitar in his hands. He was an avid outdoorsman who loved being immersed in God's creation. He shared and passed his love of nature to his children. He loved his family and proudly proclaimed his nickname, Daddy Rabbit, while being surrounded by his children and grandkids. Bob supported his family by playing music he loved and by working as a carpenter contractor. He was a born storyteller who could not resist laughing at his own jokes. Bob attained his private pilot's license and served on the Civil Air Patrol. While in the Army, he fulfilled one of his life's dreams of getting to live in Alaska, as well as many other parts of the country. His heart was torn between his love of living in his Blue Ridge mountain home and in the majestic Rocky Mountains of the West. Bob is survived by his wife of nearly 67 years, Rachel Cookie Wood, his children, Robin Hardin, Gary, Renee Wood, Robert Wood Jr., Glenn Wood, Bambi McDonald, Joe, Troy Wood, Chris, Hollywood, Trevor Puckett, Jennifer Tongue, Melanie Wood Moody, Marshall, and Mitzi Wood Vons, Meisner, Jason. 14 grandchildren, including his eldest granddaughter, Charlie Hobbs Neal, who was regarded more as a daughter. 8 grandchildren, 2 great-great-grandchildren, and his sister Ann Trenum, and a great many nieces and nephews, many of who are here right now, and dear friends. Daddy, when I was a child, you were bigger than life. I was convinced that no one was stronger than my daddy. No one was smarter. You were the best carpenter, the best hunter, the best singer, and the best guitar player. And you made the best pancakes. When I was in my teens, you took me up in a small engine plane. I had no fear because I was certain you would never let anything happen to me. You were my protector. I was safe. I remember long car trips when you entertained us with your stories and lulled us to sleep with your beautiful singing and melodic whistling. I used to beg you to sing My Little Papoose, which I later sang to my own children. I remember late night music jams where I would find a corner to sit quiet and still, hoping no one would notice that I was still up and send me to bed. I remember you always hugged us and told us you loved us, even when we were grown men and women. I remember that you lived fully, you embraced life, and you followed your dreams. You encouraged your kids to do the same. Thank you, Daddy. You gave us wings. I love you forever.
Uncle Bob liked a good joke. I can't believe you would be laughing at me right now trying to read this. Okay, this is a poem Uncle Bob wrote called My Unseen Friend. As I walk these hills of home, I will never be alone, for there is one thing that I know. No matter where on earth I go, there's a friend who walks with me throughout all eternity. He'll always be there in his place, though I'll never see his face. When the way grows dark and drear, I need never ever fear, for he's always by my side. He's my shepherd and my guide. Yes, the friend who walks with me is the man of Galilee. No matter where my feet may stray, he will always clear the way. When my life on earth is through, I will live my life anew in a land beyond the sky, where my soul shall never die. Then he'll take me by the hand, lead me through the promised land. His love can't be compared to none. He's my Father, I'm his Son.
Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. And anyone who believes in me will live again, even after dying. We're here today to celebrate the life of Robert O. Wood. Where does one begin to express the essence of this larger-than-life human known as Bob Wood? At first blush, one would recognize Bob as talented, gifted, creative, charismatic, and intelligent. Relying on free state of charm, he captured audiences with storytelling skills, with one-liners, emphasized with a loud, unpolished laugh and a hard slap on his knee. Referencing himself as a gypsy was fitting, as the concept of putting down roots eluded him for many years. During his travels, countless hotel clerks were assumed impressed when Bob accidentally presented his airline pilot's license as identification. Family and close friends knew Bob as a man of complexity and contradiction. He was an avid hunter whose soft heart was easily broken. The same rough, calloused fingers that swung a hammer during the week spent the weekend caressing the neck of his guitar like a lover.
As everyone said, he was a heck of a carpenter. So he wrote a poem called The Carpenter. So I'm going to read a poem from Dad. The Carpenter. God bless the carpenter who labors for his pay and comes home a dragging at the end of the day. After straining every muscle and part of his brain, his mind is tired and his body is in pain. His hands are all calloused from the work they have done, but so were his daddies, like father, like son. He's never paid according to the measure of his skills, and most times his meager earnings aren't enough to pay the bills. His one and only consolation is a house that's filled with love. That's the one thing in his house you'll find no shortage of. Such a good writer. Okay. He thanks God for his children and his wife of many years, who has shared with him his triumphs and a multitude of tears. Though he may never make a fortune from pursuing such a trade, he knows he's far more fortunate than some who seem to have it made. For a lot of them are in high places and proclaiming life's a bit. He, the lowly callous carpenter, is convinced that he is rich.
Speaking of lovers, Dad and Mom faced many challenges in their 66 plus years of marriage. But the hand-holding and the smooches and the general flirtation endured till the end. Dad told me a few years ago he never wanted a day to go by without saying I love you to his bride. My siblings and I used to joke that Mom couldn't go to the bathroom without Dad waiting outside, following her like a little clingy toddler, gazing up at him with puppy dog eyes, seeking confirmation from her daughters. Mom would say, "Look at your daddy, ain't he tough?" Hence her pet name for him, Cakes. That's short for baby cakes. It's no secret, there was a time when Dad was a lousy husband, but he was always a gentle, loving father, and uncle to, as he would say, a bunch of wild Indians. Dad taught the boys to hunt and the girls to always have mad money when going on a date. For the younger generation, that meant to have a dime available to make a phone call in case things got out of hand. We used to need money to make a phone call. And it went up past a dime long after that. Dad seemed to get the urge to clean his gun at the kitchen table whenever a new boy came to pick me up. Most boys only asked me out once. I eventually figured out the reason for that. Being a dreamer, like Renee said, Dad encouraged his family not only to dream, but not to fear chasing those dreams wherever they led. Leaving a legacy with lasting effects was important to Dad. To those who shared his passions, he graciously revealed his carpentry tricks and his guitar licks. Dad liked to tell people he and Job from the Bible had one thing in common. They both had the fairest daughters in the land. What Daddy didn't count on was that he and Job had another shared commonality, that his latter days were greater than his former.
Hey, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you how much I love this man. Because, truth, I won't make it through the speech if I do that. Oh. So I'm going to tell you one of my favorite things to do as a little girl. It was to sit at my daddy's feet and listen to him play his guitar and sing. When I couldn't listen to him in person, I had a copy of his favorite album, or my favorite album of his, Reflections of My Mind. I played it so much when I was little that now it won't even play. It's grooved. Grandpa used to love to tell a story that when I was little I had this little record player that you get, and my dad, my real father, gave me a copy of Elvis Presley. So I put it on and I played the first song. I was about 4 and I listened to him and I took it off and I threw Elvis Presley across the room and I said, "Elvis, that's not as good as my daddy." So I actually purchased another copy online of Reflections of My Mind just recently because I wanted my grandchildren to experience him and his music the way I did. When I was growing up, he was everything to me. He was larger and stronger than anything in this world. I really believed he was going to live forever. Most people would say he gave it a good shot at 88 years old. but I actually say he achieved it. Thanks to the internet and all the videos of him, he will live on. And I will get my wish because my grandchildren, who are still too young to remember him, will get to experience the magic of his music just as we all did. And just as I did, sitting at his feet as a young girl. I love you, Daddy.
There's another great man we know from the Bible whose life parallels Bob's, King David, a man after God's own heart. Although adorned by the masses, King David was a man with significant flaws. Both men are remembered for their poems and their songs. Their gift of music possessed the power to inspire and change lives. Like David, Bob was ruggedly handsome, physically strong, an outdoorsman, the seventh of 7 sons. Dad is quoted speaking of his family, "If the guitar didn't feed him, the hammer did." I remember more than one occasion when it was wild game that prevented us from going to bed on an empty stomach. The same Bowie knife that Phil dressed deer was used as a surgical tool to remove splinters from little tiny feet. David was a giant slayer, and Bob slew giants in his own life as well. King David gave in to the lust of his flesh and fathered a child with another woman while outside of the marriage covenant. Bob fathered 2 children under similar circumstances. Troy became part of the Wood Clan as a child, while he and his siblings were from different worlds. The blood running through our veins was the same. It was just over a month ago that Jenny learned that her biological father, Bob Wood, was still living. Fortunately, she was able to have a conversation with him and a couple of her newly discovered siblings before he transitioned into his forever home. Without a doubt, there are more questions to which Jenny needs answers. And the next time Jenny talks to her dad, he will have an eternity to answer if the questions retain any significance. In the meantime, Jenny has a lot of catching up to do and a lot of siblings.
I love Bob a lot. There were years where I wouldn't see him, but whenever I did, he'd always say, "How are you, son?" And I always felt like I was a son of his. And I guess I just want to say a couple things. Bob had an amazing capacity for love. He had a really loving heart. And over the years, one of the things I'd observed in Bob is that he always gave people a break, you know. He wasn't, he was a forgiving person. He wasn't a resentful person. And people who are underdogs, he would always kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm really grateful that the last couple of months I got to spend time with him. He was a good father, and he'll be missed.
If you're here today, it's because your life was touched by Bob Wood. He would want you to cry as you remember the good and you forgive the rest. After a time of mourning, Dad would be disappointed if you didn't smile and laugh, make music, sing, dance, work and play, write and create, rest and dream, and tell his stories.
It's a song that Dad wrote growing up in Virginia at age 16, but it's always felt like an important legacy as I've fallen in love with these hills here in East Tennessee, and he and I have shared it many times.
Oh, now I hear the sound comes to my ear In the deepest shadow free, and the world is fast asleep. I listen for the singing of the hill. In the still of the night, and the pale moonlight, I hear singing in the hill. When this night turns to day, I will start on my way. When the next night begins, I'll be on my journey's end. In these hills I will abide, and my heart will swell with pride as I sing the song of the hills. As I sing the song of
So I've been pretty busy getting ready for this and couldn't spend any time writing something creative or clever. But Dad was the kind of person, if there was an invitation to speak, he'd double dip and triple dip. I just can't imagine not saying something. So I just went over and sat in the car and wrote some things, and it's just heartfelt. My sweet daddy, too. My love for you is boundless. If I could choose one person on earth to be my father, it would be you. It is the vastness of our love that makes your death so hard to bear. And it is the vastness of our love that will help me through. And I miss you already. I miss your warm hugs, your goofball silliness, your laugh, the joy and the privilege of making music with you, your tenderness, just cornball sentimentality. Everyone loves you for your one-of-a-kind talent and character, if ever there was a character. And while I can't take any credit for all that you are, I still can't resist pride and the urge to say time and time again, that's my daddy.
So I want to read a poem my father wrote called Sunset in the Mountains. My dad, he used to say I was his poet laureate, but he was my poet laureate. When the day draws to an end and the cricket song begins, my soul with great contentment fills. I watch the sun sink in the hills when the sky glows red as fire. Then I know my heart's desire is to roam this vast domain over these endless mountains and endless plains, like a coyote, wild and free, like a grizzly, carelessly, for I love this land so wild, just the way I love my child. This land is a part of me. I know it will forever be, to me, it will always be the same. Vast, wild, never tame. Now my heart with rapture fills. I watch the sun sink in the hills, yet it ripples like a fountain when the sun sets in the mountain.
I don't have any notes, so I guess I'll wing this as best I can. Years and years ago, there was a great poet. His name was William Wordsworth, and he was very well named. When a very close friend of his passed away, they had been boyhood friends, and they would walk the beaches together and talk about boy stuff. Anyway, this man died and left Wordsworth absolutely distraught. So he wrote this poem. I will not give it to you all. I had to learn it when I was 16, and it stayed in this old noggin all this time. Break, break, break on thy stone grey shores, O sea, and I would that my lips could utter the grief that arises in me. Break, break, break on thy stone grey shores to thy haven under the hill. But oh, for the touch of a vanished hand and the sound of a voice that is still. I always thought these words were so beautiful, but I'm not going to exactly end on a Wordsworth poem. A few things to say about my Hedgie, whom I love very much. And for those of you who don't know why he's called Hedgie, it's really very simple. He just had a haircut, and everyone was trying to make this lie down at the back. And Cookie said to me, "It doesn't matter what we do, it won't lie down." And I said, don't worry about it, Cookie. It's adorable. He looks like a baby hedgehog. So Hedgie looked at me and said, "Hedgehog?" I said, "I'm going to call you Hedgie." And he said, "I like that. I like that." And then he said, "I think that's going to stick." And it stuck. And probably a few days before he passed from this vale, I went down to see him, and there was a nurse taking care of a patient, and cubicle curtains were kind of drawn, and I didn't go in. So I said, "Good afternoon. I'm looking for Hedgie." And she said, "Who?" I said, "Hedgie." And then from behind the curtain at the back, I heard, "This is old Hedgie. This is old Hedgie. Come on in." And there he was, my old Hedgie. And so many things to say about him, really. And for me, they're all up and positive and extremely funny. He was a funny man with a marvelous sense of humor. And I never loved it more than when he slapped that knee and the tip of his nose turned white. And he laughed so hard he actually wasn't able to finish the joke. Or try to get in with his own joke before you'd finished yours. Because he had a better one. And he usually did. I went to see him 3 days before he died, but 2 days before he passed. I called him up on the phone, and I said, "Hedgie, how's it going?" And he said, "One way or another, I'm getting out of here. I'm getting out of here." Yeah, boy. So I said, "Well, when you do come out of here, I'm going to make the lemon cake, the lemon cream pie that you like so much." And he said, "Yeah, buddy. Yeah, boy. I really did like that." And then, inspired, I think, by the situation, I said, "I do want to say something to you." I said, "I want you to know how very, very, very much I love you." And he said, Back at you, baby girl. I love you very, very, very much too. And without my realizing it, this was my goodbye because he passed the following day. A fabulous character. Here and I suspect up there.
So I was honored to get to read a poem by my father, and now I'm honored to read some words that my husband wrote for him. A November day and the harvest is past. Work for the coming winter is complete. We rest during the cold, dark days ahead. Deep sleep heals our sorrows and our wounds. Secure in God's abiding love, we awaken into a new sunlight.
This is Ann, Bob's baby sister, the last of the wood crew.
Well, I didn't plan to say anything, but I would like to say that I'm going to give one of Bob's cornball jokes to Ann. She's a poet and don't know it, but her feet show it. Longfellows. I can hear him saying that now when she finished. One of the pet peeves of Bob and mine as children, we love peanut butter and jelly. Took it in our lunch just about every day. We didn't have light bread. We'd eat Mom's homemade bread. And then we'd come home from school, we'd make another sandwich of peanut butter and jelly. And I would always say to him, now don't lick that knife. And he'd say, oh, I'm not going to lick it. So I'd make my sandwich, he'd make his sandwich, and when he finished, I'd say, did you lick that knife? No, I didn't lick that knife. When I got half through my sandwich, he would say, Ann, you know what? Yeah, I licked that knife. And we'd go round and round. We had many, many wonderful times together as children. And Mom and Dad always taught us to love each other. No matter what your brother did, your sister did, you loved them. If they needed help, you helped them. And so, when we went to school, the peanut butter fights were the last thing I ever remember a crossword we had when we were 9 or 10 years old. And then when we would go to school, we lived one place, we'd walk to school at Fairfax High School in the 8th grade. And we'd walk up the street, he would carry my books, and he'd hold my hand. And when we get up on the school ground, that invariably, every time we went in like that, there was some child or teacher even would come up and say, you two look like twins, but you act like sweethearts. Which are you? I said, both. He was a wonderful brother. We were so close. We were like twins. We even thought alike. But I just want to say that I know where he is. I know he's not suffering. I'll miss him terribly. I'm so happy that he didn't lay for weeks and months and suffer. And I just want to bring a scripture that came to mind when Jesus called his disciples together. And he said, I've got to leave you for a while, but I'll come back and I'll get you and receive you to myself again, that where I am, you might be also. Here on earth, he could be over in Galilee or one of the other places, but he could only have a few people at the time, maybe several hundred, several thousand. But when he went into heaven, he said, I will send my spirit to lead you and guide you into all truth. And that's what he did. And Bob found the way, and he followed that truth. Was he human? Was he perfect after that? No, and I'm not either. We all have many faults. But the wonderful thing is, we look at the outward appearance. God looks at the heart, and he had a good heart. And I love him.
And I don't even know if Mitzi or I wrote this poem, and I won't have it exactly right, but it was something like this.
Who's the most handsomest of them all? My sweet daddy is. Who's the best guitar player of them all? My sweet daddy is. Who's the best carpenter of them all? My sweet daddy is. And I don't remember all of it, but it just shows you what we thought of our sweet daddy.
That shows you whatever you tell your children, they're going to believe. Say good things. Out of the mouth of babes.
Hello. This is my first time ever going to do this. But I didn't really know Bob that well because I was a very shy kid when I was very young. But every time I saw him in like Woodstock Park, the Aunt Anne's house, Bob's house, he's always been a cool guy to meet and greet. Even though I didn't talk much, I always loved meeting everybody, just chilling, watching everybody have a blast, enjoying life. So, even though I didn't know Bob well, I would imagine that he and all of you guys will love each other from afterlife and life on earth. Yeah.
So, when Dad turned 84, I wrote him a little poem. Mom didn't like the original draft. She didn't approve of it. He never saw it. So, some months later, in November, I'm sitting in a tree stand, and if you spend too much time in a tree stand hunting, you can get kind of boring waiting for the next deer to come along. And I got my cell phone out, and I rewrote the poem, and when I rewrote it the second time, I didn't know. I knew I didn't have to ask approval. This one, it wasn't on there like the first one. So it's entitled 84, because he had just turned 84. It says, 83 I used to be, that number is no longer me. 83, how can it be? I was so young and carefree. 84, 1 year more, and all the rest are out the door. 84, need I say more? I cherish the years I have explored. 85, if I'm still alive, another year I have survived. 85, how can I surmise the wonders I've seen with my two eyes? 84, oh yes, I'm 84. That's my number, not yet one more. 84, I must implore. Life's been a journey I have adored.
Okay. Not a poet. I just want to say that. Love you, Dad. If there's one thing I learned from my dad, it's forgiveness. There were rocky roads when we were kids. We all know about. And he and Mom had rocky years at first, and I witnessed a lot of arguments and stuff. And I pushed him away most of my childhood. I went through periods where I didn't like him. I'm not going to lie. And he would try, and I'd push him away. And it was him and Bobby's thing to be together, and I just was the mom's boy to help defend my mom. But so he tried this. He made this attempt when I was about 16. He said, "You'll be a grown man soon, and I've never really done anything with you, and I feel like I need to get to know you." So he made this attempt to get to know me. So I go on a road trip with him. He was working for Alltech or Ovation or one of those music companies. I don't remember. It's a 13-hour drive we go on, and I swear to God, he asked me every question in the world to get to know his son. I don't think he left anything out. I probably responded with 2 sentences the whole 13-hour drive. And we get back home, and Mom goes, "How did you go?" And Dad said, "Well, he probably said all the 2 sentences the whole way there." But I did try to get to know him. So anyway, I never forgot that he reached out to make up for it, to try to mend that. And it wasn't until I went to the Air Force, I was talking on the phone to Dad. Had an adoptive mother after his mom passed away. Us kids all knew her as Grandma Chai. She was the president of his fan club. She was an elderly woman that he met right after his mother passed away, and she became like a second mom and a second grandma to us kids. And I was on the phone in the Air Force telling her about mine and Dad's relationship and what I'd like to tell him. And she told me, she said, "Hey, you need to tell him these things," because I didn't tell my dad. And I waited, and then it was too late, and he passed away. And I said, "Well, maybe someday." Well, I called Dad up on the phone about a week later. He goes, "Grandma Chai tells me you have something you need to tell me." I'm going to tell her. And I played completely ignorant. I'm like, "I don't know what she's talking about." He goes, "Well, when you don't know what she's talking about and you decide you want to talk about it, I'm here for you." So anyway, I couldn't tell him, so I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter to him, telling him how much I loved him and how much I appreciated him making that effort when I was 16, and I just wasn't ready to forgive him. And that now I was. And he got that letter, and for years after that, he would say to me, he'd say, "You know I still have that letter. It's one of my life treasures." And he kept it in his top drawer somewhere along the move. We can't locate it right now. We'll probably find it later. But he'd always remind me that I still have that letter. It means so much to me. And I told him in the letter how much I loved him, how much I appreciated him, never giving up on me. So from all of that, as he moves on to another great behind, for my family, we're not a perfect family. We love each other. We have our conflicts. We have our fights. We all in the end need to love each other and always forgive each other. I love each and every one of my family members. My father taught us that. He taught us to love each other forever and forgive each other no matter what. And I always will thank him for that.
Anyone else brave enough? Okay, we made a rule that no one can speak twice, but the princess.
I am Daddy's princess, and they were someone else's words. So I don't have it, but for a class assignment, I wrote a creative nonfiction essay, and in it, I kind of talk about just a situation in our family's life. And I wrote it in the spirit of a Greek mythology, and in it, I described Dad. He's kind of like my analogy to Hercules. The gods came down and created this man that was half God. And if you ever met him, you know that this isn't just nonfiction; it's true. But in my essay, you know, I talk about the human that he was, and during his hospital stays, I was talking to my sister Mitzi and my mom, and I was saying, we need to prepare ourselves. I've worked in nursing homes, and each time he comes home, he's not quite back up to baseline, and I thought I was prepared. And then when I was in the hospital with them, watching him go, I realized that all the writing, all the logic, all the preparing everyone else, I was like, I'm still not convinced it's real. And I still think that nonfiction essay was wrong because I don't think he was half mortal. And I think it's what Charlie said so beautifully is that he's going to get to live with us in his music and his songs and his videos. And if ever I've ever touched the hand of God, I can say I'm touching it right now. I love you, Dad.
I've known him been family for maybe 3 years. This discovery came late in my life, as you know. It was a surprise. It was it was the best surprise I've ever had in my life. Through Bob, I got to know my dad. And I think the jury in the sky is telling me this. I got to know Bob in a way that I never knew the man who raised me as my father. It's not an unusual experience. And this family, all of you, you're incredible. You're just absolutely incredible. It's the family I never had. You're not quite the Waltons. But you know, we've got John Boyd. I'm just so blessed to be part of this. And I only wish I'd had more time with Bob. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
I think as even nature is weeping the passing of one of its own, we're going to have Melanie close us out in a poem that he wrote.
This is called The Touch of God's Hand. I used to rise at the break of dawn and behold the dew glistening on the lawn. I would step outside to greet the day and inhale the fragrance of the new mown hay. I would stroll along the rippling stream and sometimes wonder if this was just a dream. I thrilled at the whisper of the morning breeze as it softly rustled the yielding leaves. I would roam the meadows like a carefree rover and take my rest in the blooming clover. Then there were the mountains looming high. It seemed as though they kissed the sky. My heart did swell inside of me, and there was sweet serenity. The heavens seemed to unfurl. I was at peace with the world. In my mind, there was no doubt as to how this all did come about. It was the touch of the living God's hand that created this great and mighty land. And every creature on this earth are beholden to him for their birth. He did not bless them equally. It's obviously he favored humanity. Of all his creatures here below, only mankind has a soul. He allowed man a mind of his own, so for his sins he must atone. And alas, I regret to say, mankind seems to have lost his way. Because of the curse of greed and hate, man will someday seal his fate. In the name of progress he makes such haste, he overlooks his dreadful waste. My God, if you would grant to me just one wish, that wish would be, if the world could live in harmony, in peace and love and unity. We wouldn't worry about the ecology, it's evolved naturally. And then my children who come behind could have a life more rewarding than mine. Let them know the joy of a peaceful day.
Let them know the joy of a peaceful day and appreciate the fragrance of new mown hay. Let them roam the meadows and climb the mountain high. And marvel at the beauty of a star-studded sky. May they take nothing at all for granted, and may the seed of love be planted. Then they will know and understand the wonder of the touch of God's hand. And that was 1973, he wrote that.
In memory and honor of his service to the country, United States Congress has presented this flag for Bob Wood, who served his 2 years of Army back in 1958-59, I believe it would have been. And so, we present this to you.
Our Heavenly Father, your name is holy. Your name is power. Your name is love. Your name is life. Give us today our daily bread. You are the bread of life. Help us to see you, hear you, talk with you each day. Help us to recognize you and acknowledge you daily. Make us more aware of your presence. Forgive us for our rebellion, for our critical spirit, for our hurtful words, as we forgive others who treat us the same. Lead us not down the path of temptation. Deliver us from the evil one and help us to know our enemy is not our brother or our sister. If there's anyone here who doesn't know you as Savior, let them know if they seek, they will find. If they knock, the door will be open and you are there waiting with loving arms. Lead us not down the path of temptation. Deliver us from evil, for yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Hark, behold, now I hear the call falls on my ear. I hear singing in the hills. It's calling me home, where I may always roam forever in my kingdom of the hills. So loud and so clear, the call falls on my ear. It's calling to me from the land of the free. It comes floating floating on the breeze as it glides through the trees. This wonderful singing in the hills.
Oh.